What's up YouTube, it's a Zero Option here with a video on how to side in Reaper, and one of my subscribers requested that I do this video, or at least requested my tips, so I thought I'd just do a video on it, and it would make things a lot easier. So my first card and tip for sided would be Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. I would recommend you to side one of these in your Reaper build, and the reason why Kaiku is so good is because it stops your opponent from banishing monsters from your opponent's from their graveyard. To you it would be your opponent, but to them it would be their graveyard. And it also stops your opponent from banishing cards in your graveyard, which means that they can't banish your spellbooks, and they also can't banish Prophecy Destroyer. So I feel like Kaiku is also a really good option. And also if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you could banish two of their monsters in their graveyard, which is always useful. So I feel like Kaiku is definitely a really good side. You could side in against Elemental Dragons, and you could also side it in against Dark World as well. And the card after that is Jalgun. Both of these cards you pretty much only need to side one copy of because of Judgment Day, but Jalgun I feel was a really good card as well to side. It's also good against Elemental Dragons, and it's really good against like Murmur as well. It's really good against a wide range of different decks. And the really good thing about Jalgun is that you can tribute it off and summon. So you can tribute it off to tribute summon Reaper. So basically it's really only affecting your opponent because you can tribute it off at any time you want and summon a Reaper. So I feel like it's definitely worth it. And after that I've got Flying Sea. This card is here mostly for Elemental Dragons, and also for theirs, to stop those really annoying first turn Eradicators. You can just summon the Flying Sea and really stop them from being able to make their Big Eye and Ophion. And also the downside to Flying Sea is that Elemental Dragons can kind of get around it, but I mostly side this in against Spurs. And the card after that is Raikou. Raikou has been a card which I've always been sided in Reaper, and I probably will always side it. Raikou is just extremely good. It gets rid of Thunder King, it gets rid of Ophion, it gets rid of a ton of problematic monsters, including Lagia as well. And the really good thing about it is that it mills 3 cards after. So if your opponent had a macro face up on the field, and for some reason, well, not for some reason, but because they had a macro face up on the field, you weren't able to go for your plays because your spellbooks would be banished, you can set a Raikou, pop it during your opponent's turn or during your next turn, and Raikou basically allows you to make up for those cards which you weren't able to get into the graveyard by milling the top 3 cards of your deck. So I feel like Raikou is a really good card, and it fits really well in Reaper. And after that is Knights and Sorcerer. A lot of Reaper decks are main in 1 to 2 exemplars, so Knights and Sorcerer is definitely an option there, and also if you hit it with Reaper it's not so bad. Delg is also another target for Reaper, and I feel like Knights and Sorcerer is probably a better option over Delg, because with Delg you run the risk of replacing the 2 cards which you removed from play with worse cards. I mean, imagine like you're playing against Dark World and you remove from play Grapha and a Snow, and like you mill 2 Graphas afterwards. So Delg has that risk factor, but you can summon it with Reaper. And the good thing about Delg is that even though you can't attack, because full summons Reaper during the end phase, you wouldn't have been able to attack it anyway. And also with Delg, the really good thing about it is that you can exceed with it because it's a level 6, and Reaper's a level 6 as well. So I feel like that's also a really good point with Delg. After that, Electric Virus and Puppet Plant. Electric Virus is really good against Elemental Dragons. You could take their Dragon Sack and tribute it off for a Reaper. You could also just use it against Lagias and stuff like that. So Electric Virus is pretty good, and Puppet Plant in particular is really good because you could take Xians with it, and you could take like if you're playing a mirror match and your opponent summoned a Jalgun, you could just take that Jalgun and tribute it off. You can take that Kaiku's and tribute it off, and the really good thing is that if that's their only monster and you take it and they have a face down Spellbook of Fate, and let's say they have something like a Priestess on the field, you can take that Priestess and they won't be able to use Spellbook of Fate because they no longer control a face up spellcaster monster, and then use Priestess's effect to pop one of their cards, and then you contribute the High Priestess for a Reaper. So I feel like Puppet Plant is a really good option as well. The card after that is MST. MST is just a really good side deck card in general. It's good for hitting macros and stuff like that. After that, Deck Devastation Virus and Eradicator. Deck Dev is really good for hitting for his rogue decks, which you might see around like Gigia, Gravekeepers, and just, you know, you might see wind-ups, I guess, but Deck Dev is really good against those decks, and Eradicator is obviously extremely good against Prophecy and the Mirror Match. This is one reason why Reaper is such a good matchup against the Priestess variant, and that's because the Priestess variant really struggles against swarming decks, and decks that can basically OTK without, you know, without using up too many resources, and Reaper is definitely one of those decks. Reaper can OTK turn 2 onwards. It depends on how you open, but when you start to put in Eradicator Epidemic Virus inside of Reaper, it becomes a really big problem for the Priestess variant. And after that, I have Soul Drain. Soul Drain does stop Destroyer from reviving itself, but I think that's worth it against Mermels and Dark World, because Soul Drain completely shuts down those decks. And after that, Retool and Curse Seal of a Forbidden Spell. Retool is just for the Mirror Match. To be honest, I wouldn't really side Retool. I'd probably side Curse Seal, because it can be used against a lot of different decks, like Fire Fist. You can negate their Tenki, and they won't be able to use it again. And also in the mirror, it's extremely good. Most of the time I negate Spellbook of Fate, and once you negate Spellbook of Fate, that is it, because they can add as many cards as they want during the end phase with Judgment if they've got nothing to basically stop you next turn, except for like their threatening rules and stuff. They basically can't really do anything. So once you take away Spellbook of Fate, the Priestess variant is left very open, and this is, well, that's the card which I normally use Curse of Forbidden Spell on. And the final card is Rival of the Warlords. You could use this against Verz, against Stella as well, and sometimes Mermels. And that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this has given you some tips to, or, you know, it's helped you out when it comes to Sided and Reaper. And this is Azure Eruption signing out, and have a nice day.